On this episode of Chase Classic Motors, we're revisiting our youth with GM's front-wheel drive classic that populated every public school parking lot in America. This 1991 Buick Riviera was a smooth and stylish personal luxury coupe driven by principals, teachers, and parents alike. The seventh generation of the popular Riviera model was now built in Detroit on the versatile E-body platform. Armed with 170 horsepower thanks to GM's long-lasting 3.8-liter V6, the 91 Buick was quick off the line and still able to eclipse 30 miles per gallon. Yes, the 1991 Buick Riviera was a great all-round combination of modern technology, creature comforts, performance, and fuel economy. And although sales could be sluggish, the early 90s were a great time to be a GM owner. However, fast forward 30 years, and our customer who drives this car daily is not having such a great time. It seems that his Riviera is experiencing some intermittent faults with the brake lights and the turn signals. So let's see if Eric can make this Buick safe again before we both wind up in detention. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Well, what do you got here?
This is a 93 Buick Riviera. I think it's a 93, isn't it?
91.
91, all right. I'm looking for his key for his wheel covers right now.
So what do we know about these front-wheel drive 3800 series V6 multi-port injected Buicks?
That they're amazing.
And what else?
Well, they last a long time and they deliver surprisingly good fuel economy. I had an 88 LeSabre for a long time that had a 3800 in it, a Series 1. And I remember the first time I took it on the freeway, I thought the fuel gauge had broken because it was getting such good gas mileage. And I wasn't trying to save gas either. I was doing, 80 miles an hour with the air conditioning on. But this particular car, as nice as it is, and it really is nice, I'm ashamed to admit it's a daily driver for this customer. But he needs a turn signal switch, and he can't find anybody to work on a car this old. So here it is.
That's right. This customer is retired out of Lapeer County, about an hour north of us here outside Detroit, and wanted a simple, no muss, no fuss, easy daily driver. And he's definitely picked a good car because as popular as these cars were in the early to mid 90s, you never see these today.
No, I haven't seen one in a long time. I think they all died of rust.
Chronic Michigan environmental syndrome.
Yep. I'm still looking for his wheel cover key. I hope he's got it. The way he got this car, I'm very sure it went through an auction and through a dealer. And sometimes when they prep their cars, people go through it and they, take everything that belonged to the old owner that's still left in the car and they throw it in the garbage. And a lot of times they throw away things like wheel lock keys at the same time. I don't need to take the hubcaps off in order to change a turn signal switch, but I noticed that the wheel cover right there is falling off. It's very loose. Really, almost the only thing that holds these on is the lock in the center. So all that really needs to be done is it needs to be tightened up unless it's damaged in some way that I'm not seeing. So I was going to try to do that for him. Yeah, see, there's playing. I can move it and that doesn't move.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about this car. Can you open the hood?
Oh, yeah.
But powering it is something just about any GM owner should be very proud of. And I know plenty of other channels have commented about the ruggedness and the reliability and the ease of maintenance and the fuel economy of the Immortal 3800 series GM tune-port injected V6. Is that sequential injected?
93?
91.
91? I don't know.
Either way, it is very, very clean under here for a 1991 anything Michigan car.
I don't think my LeSabre was sequential, but I really don't know. It looks to me like we got different color wires on the injectors. Looks like we got one pink wire on every injector, and then the other wires I think are different colors. Black with a white tracer, black with a pink tracer, and black with I think no tracer. That probably means that it's sequential. That usually that usually means the power wire is probably the pink one, so it'll get the same power, and then ground is individual for each injector going back to the PCM, and the PCM probably controls the injector that way. It gives it ground, and if they're all different wires, then they're probably all different drivers in the PCM, and so then yes, it probably is sequential.
Well, this car hasn't had very many drivers because it's only got, what, about 40-something thousand on the clock?
I think it's more than that. I think it's just over 100.
Oh, is it really? I thought this was a low mileage example.
It looks low mileage, but 100,000 for a car that's 30 years old as of this year is still pretty good. Yeah, 105,205.
You get a glimmer of that digital dashboard. That is just so 90s. But what a nice place to sit, this cabin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very nice car. It's very clean. Headliner's not coming down. I'm sure it was garage kept. These cars will serve you better than, any car built since about 2005. Manufacturers really started getting it down to a science of building a car just to outlast its warranty and nothing else. They're built down to a price. But in 93 or 91, they hadn't done that yet. And you still had cars that would go, 200,000 plus miles if you took care of them. So it just, I walk around a pick apart and I see these cars from the 80s and early 90s and mid 90s that don't have any rust on them, and they're sitting there and they're being destroyed. And I'm just thinking, it's asinine. I drive down the road and I see cars all the time that are much newer that don't deserve to be on the road as much as a car like this, because you'll get so much better service out of this car.
And one of the things I found very interesting in talking to this owner is that even though he lives in Almont, about an hour north of where we are, and even though this is an early 90s GM, possibly one of the most reliable and easier cars of this generation to work on, he advised us he can find no one to service this car.
Yep. Yeah, people don't want to work on these old cars, and I think it's just because they have a hard time finding parts. They don't want this car taking up space in a bay for a day or two while they track down parts, when they could get, 3, 4, 5 cars in and out in the same time out of the same bay, because they can get the parts right now.
And he didn't expect he was going to have to turn to a classic car shop like ours to find anyone even willing to work on his daily.
Yeah.
But the fact that it is a 90s car, sorry to say, it's getting old. We're getting old, and so are the cars we grew up with. These were everywhere in the 90s. Mm-hmm. When I was in high school, the Tauruses, the Luminas. The list of reliable imports and big three cars from the 90s that were just everybody our age as teenagers and their parents had, were all just like this. And nowadays, especially here in Detroit, you just never see these being driven anymore.
No.
They have not survived. So the fact that this one did, and the fact that it is in such nice, well-preserved shape. Let's just get a glimmer of the interior here. One more time. Says a lot about the quality of cars, GM cars from this era.
I'm still thinking about the wheel lock key.
I know you are. You've got your mind, you're mission focused. Well, I'll let you get back to searching for it, but I'm really glad to take a quick little journey down memory lane, because boy, do I remember these cars in the 90s.
Yeah, it is super clean, isn't it?
It is super clean. I didn't think much of them at the time.
No, like you say, they were everywhere. We didn't think the day would ever come when they would be rare.
No. So you go ahead and get the trunk put back together. We're going to take one last look around to see what was quintessential 90s goodness from General Motors.
Found the key. Oh, it's not getting any tighter. That's unfortunate. So I guess something's messed up. I don't know. Should I take it off? I might be opening Pandora's box. He didn't come here to have his wheel locks fixed. I think I'll just tighten it up and pretend I didn't see it. And this fits what he's got on the right front. I didn't check to see if they're all the same, but it fits the right front at least. And I'm gonna be nosy and find out what this is. It's an electrical connector for I'm not sure what. Certainly is GM though.
But we already went ahead and ordered that new turn signal switch.
Yeah,
for
the
this
turn
car.
signal switch is here. I had no trouble getting it. I ordered it and had it the next day. And just to be thorough, I got the cam for it too. Just in case we need it, because this guy, because it's his daily driver, he needs this car back as soon as possible. So I wanted to hit the ground running and make sure as reasonably as possible that we had all the parts.
And that's different for us because most owners that come in here, they're long-term projects or they're show cars.
Yeah,
so we can afford to take our time because we're a part-time shop.
Yeah, most of the cars that we have here stay here for like 2 weeks or more, depending on what it's getting. We got, a couple cars here that are gonna be staying for months.
So when the customer called and said, look, I'm desperate, I can't find anyone in my area who will even touch my 91 Buick. Is there any chance you could get it in? I am using it as a daily. I don't want to be driving this car at night without turn signals. So can you help me out? And we said, well, for a 90s GM, something that we have not seen in a very long time, I asked you if you were up for it and you said, yeah, bring it in. Let's get it done in a day and a half. Mm-hmm. So that's the plan.
You shouldn't have said day and a half. We're jinxed. Now this is gonna take a week.
Eric was more right than either of us realized at the time. By casually tempting fate, we began what would end up being a months-long ordeal.
Looks like that wheel is coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got to get to the turn signal switch.
And what were you just thinking about this steering column?
Well, I don't know 90s Buicks that well, but it's black, which makes me kind of suspect it's been replaced once. It doesn't match the rest of the interior, and the customer doesn't care. I almost offered to find the correct paint for the rest of the interior and paint it for him while we had it apart, but once again, he didn't care. It's just his daily driver. Also, I could tell that this nut's been off once before. There are the scratches here that you usually only see. I'm trying to get this piece of metal out. When this has been removed, I know I already took it off, so you're gonna see scratches anyway, but those were there before I took it off. So it looks like it's been replaced once already. There we go.
Are you still looking for metrics?
No, I'm looking for my steering wheel puller.
Well, you mentioned to me earlier you thought you were going to have all metrics to work on this car.
Yeah, and I do, of course, have lots of metric stuff, but I don't tend to keep it here. Most of the stuff we work on is so old, I don't need it very often.
Old and American, so it's using standard.
Right, but they started phasing metrics in on American cars really in the 70s. And so, a lot of, working on a 90s car, there's lots of metric stuff on here. Matter of fact, this car is probably almost all metric. Of course, the one I need is screwed up on the end. Why not?
We'll pick this up after you deal with that little dilemma. Good luck, Eric.
All right.
Well, how's it going, Eric?
Oh, okay. Digging my way down to it.
I see you got the wheel off, and it looks like you're right down into where the switch should be.
Yeah, this is a switch right here. The other end of it's down here. So I'm trying to squeeze it past, it goes through the steering column. So there's a lot of stuff that's got to make its way past. And then, of course, the new one's got to fish all the way down. So
What's the new one look like?
there it is.
Well, hopefully they give you enough line to make it that far.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. It's got an extra pigtail on it that the one coming off the car doesn't have. They're trying to make one part fit several different applications, that's all. So I'm sure this will work, and then this is just gonna hang out down there and do nothing.
Well, I was a little surprised, given all the time it's taken for the disassembly, that Mitchell's manual that estimates the time involved in a service like this said they gave you an hour to do it. What do you think about that?
There's no way.
No way.
I mean, and really, I I'm sure if you could find the actual GM service procedure, they'd tell you to take this knee bolster off. Well, that's completely buried too. This has to come off, and there's several screws holding that on to get that off. And this compartment here had to come off. I started doing that, and I'm not sure, how much farther it would go. I'm kind of trying, maybe that's the thing, is they don't expect you to take all that off. I don't know, we'll see. It's there's not a lot of room here.
I'm just glad that I priced this job out accordingly for our customer, and he didn't even blink. He just said yes to everything because, again, he can't find a single shop to service this Buick or work on it or perform these vital repairs because you found that, the turn signal switch definitely is not allowing it to blink, turning right.
Right, yeah, it's the switch, because you can make it work, but you have to push up on the switch so hard, I feel like I'm going to break something.
And that's no doubt what he experienced as well.
Mm-hmm.
Good, well, it sounds like you're making good progress. I know you had to go grab a couple tools here and there down at our local O'Reilly's.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I thought I had the tools here, and they're not expensive tools, but I thought I had them here, and I don't. They must be in my garage at home, and so I ended up having to buy them again, which makes me feel like an idiot.
But that was necessary in order for you to pull out this whole section of the...
Yeah, this plate here, any car that's got a tilt steering wheel's got this plate, and you have to compress it to get the snap ring out of here. And I thought I had that tool with me, and I didn't, so I had to go to O'Reilly's and get one. Any car that's got tilt has this. And it pushes down, you know how when you use tilt, you can feel like you're fighting a spring, like the spring wants to push it all the way up?
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah, this compresses that spring. And in order to get this part off, because the turn signal's underneath it, you have to compress that down against that spring to get the snap ring out of there, to get this up, to get to the turn signal.
Because it has that extra mechanical advantage where you pull on the tilt adjustment lever and you can adjust your steering wheel. But in order to get down to where the turn signal switch is, that has to essentially be disassembled.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay, that's the complication then. Mm-hmm. If this was a non-tilt car, I'm guessing it would be much easier to just pull that switch.
Yeah, it would be.
So that's the determining factor. If the car's got tilt, for the benefit of the owner and the driver, then it makes it a bit more complicated to take it apart on your end.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, not a lot. It slowed me down a lot not having the tools. One quick thing while we're doing the video I want to mention, this is the clock spring for the airbag, and it does rotate a little bit. If you ever take these apart, don't rotate them. When this was a new piece, it would have had a little plastic pin that I think went right there to hold it in place so that you don't rotate it. And when it's apart like this, you don't want to rotate it because you can turn it too far and break it. So it's got to go back on the same way it came off, is what I'm getting at.
Otherwise, do you lose airbag operation?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd break the electrical connection in here that goes from this wire here to this wire here.
And that's what causes
That's what deploys the airbag.
Deploys it with the propellant. Mm-hmm. And allows it to expand in a fraction of a second for a crash.
And that being said, I technically should not have the airbag sitting face down like that either. And I probably shouldn't have it sitting in the car just in case it accidentally deploys. No, I don't know. Do as I say, not as I do is what I'm saying. I know that what I'm doing here isn't quite right. I should have it out of the car and away from us and pointed face up and all that safety stuff.
So we don't end up like Chevy Chase in National Lampoon's Vacation.
Whoa, an airbag!
Yeah, something like
Oh,
that.
airbag. Look, kids, got an airbag.
And these things go off with a hell of a lot of force when they do. I mean, I've seen videos where someone is sitting on an airbag and they deploy it and it shoots the guy up in the air. So
Wow. Okay, well.
It's a violent explosion,
Safety
especially on
first.
these old cars that don't have, two-stage airbags and stuff.
Gotcha.
So after Eric put the Buick's airbag in a safe place, he carried on replacing the turn signal switch and reinstalled the steering wheel. Just 24 hours later, the revered Riviera was ready for pickup, and everything was going perfectly to plan. The 1991 Buick was putting out all the right signals, and the owner was en route to the shop. And there I was, ready to reunite him with it. All was right with the world. And because I was there by myself, I decided to take the Buick out for a quick test drive just to experience it. So many of our contemporaries drove these front-wheel drive cars in the 90s, and I was excited to take a trip down memory lane. Yet within minutes, I was on the phone frantically calling both Eric and the owner. As soon as I'd made that right-hand turn, the turn signal switch was stuck on and it would not reset. And that was only the beginning of our troubles. Maybe it was because I had tempted fate. Maybe it was the challenging deadline. Whatever the reason, the 91 Buick would soon be back. 3 more times. And Eric and I would find ourselves scouring Metro Detroit for the last GM turn signal switches in existence. But I'll let him explain how that all happened.
How's it going, Eric?
Better than it was.
First test drive in the 91 Buick Riviera.
Yeah. So just to recap, this customer brought us this car, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago with a turn signal switch that wasn't working properly. We looked for a turn signal switch for it. We were able to get one, but it was from a brand that I've had experience before with, and I didn't like them. But it was like the only one available, especially in a hurry, because it's as nice as this car is, and it really is a very nice car, it's actually not a collector car. This is this guy's daily driver, which it's a little bit of a shame to know that a car this nice is being used in Michigan in winter as a daily driver. I certainly don't want to see it rust, but if it wasn't for rust, I don't think you could pick a nicer daily driver. You know, this has the 3800 in it, and which is an excellent engine. You know, I had a 1988 LeSabre for a long time as my daily driver that had the 3800 in it, and I loved it. Rode nice, was simple to work on, rarely gave me any problems. When it did give me problems, they were cheap and easy to fix, and it got such good gas mileage on the highway. The first time I drove it, I literally thought the gas gauge had broken. But anyway, I put this turn signal switch in, which was kind of a cheap one because, like I said, he needed it back because it's his daily driver. We only had a couple days to do it, and it was I didn't like the brand, but we didn't have much choice. He brought it back to us about a week ago, and his complaint was when he hit the brake pedal, the left front turn signal light bulb would come on. And so I checked it out, and I found out that the plastic body of the turn signal switch had actually cracked. It was broken. There's a big plastic ring that goes all the way around the shaft of the steering column that's connected to the stalk. And every time you move it, you know, it would flex that plastic a little bit. And over time it had broken it. And over time, I mean, what, like 6 weeks, maybe 2 months? You know, and that's why I didn't really want to use that brand. I've just had problems with them before. So this time what we did, once again, the only one I could get is a cheaper one. I bolstered the back side of it with a cotter pin. And it looks a little cheesy, and I'm not super happy with it. I'd really like to get a NOS GM one, but I haven't been able to find one. If this happens again, if it breaks again, I'm tempted to just find a used steering column, maybe, so we can get our hands on, you know, I'm almost thinking a used GM switch might be better at this point than a brand new aftermarket one. Which I know a lot of people, if you haven't had experience with this, you might think, oh, new is always better than used. No, it's not. You know, I've harped on it before. We've got to this point in history now where the new stuff is so cheap. You know, for the most part, I'd rather have a 30 or 40-year-old used part if it's OEM than a brand new, you know, made overseas one. But anyway, so far it's working.
I'll say, what a lovely place this is to be.
Yeah, turn signals are working. I'm a little bit afraid to try the hazard, but I'll try it. They're on. They're off. Turn signals are still working. Okay.
Because you and I are about the same age, and when we were growing up, cars like this, GM front-wheel drive E-bodies, these were everywhere.
Oh yeah. And they lived a long time too.
They lived a long time. Where I grew up in northern Michigan, I mean, cars like this and their cousins, the Chevrolet Lumina and their arch rivals, the Ford Taurus, the front-wheel drive V6 beauties like this were just a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
And nowadays, this is the first one I've seen in I can't remember how many years.
Yeah.
And it's a prime example of it. And you're right, it is a little worrisome that this owner is using it as daily transportation, but I understand why he likes it so much. There's hardly a disadvantage other than getting parts for them these days. And that is why this owner has told us again he's decided to sell it. Not that he doesn't like the car, he loves the car for obvious reasons. It's very luxurious inside, it's super quiet. What a nice ride. Excellent fuel economy. You've got all this modern technology, great digital gauges. Probably has excellent sound, power everything. Everything in this car works. And yet, I think this car has probably been at the workshop just as much as he's been able to drive it.
Yeah.
And if you're using a car like this for daily transportation that's pushing 30 years old, be prepared for that. Because it's not the major mechanical components. There's nothing wrong with the engine, nothing wrong with the transmission. It's all the supporting auxiliary features that you need to have a basic running daily driver that are going to go bad. And when they do go bad, as this one has, something as simple as a turn signal switch, where do you get the parts and how long is it going to be? And when you do find parts, what kind of quality are they going to be?
Yeah.
They just aren't lasting.
And I think my experience, there's a lot of psychology involved in dealing with customers. And I've had customers even before our business where once they've got it in their head that a car is a POS, it's almost impossible to change their minds. And I don't think he's there yet with this car, but he could be soon. I'm sure this car is going to have all the same problems my Buick had with the 3800. Eventually he's going to have the crankshaft sensor fail, and it's going to leave him stranded. It's cheap and easy to fix, but it's going to happen. Eventually he's going to have the ignition module fail, and it's going to develop a misfire on 2 cylinders. Once again, it's cheap and easy to fix, but it's going to happen.
This car also came in for an oil change, he decided, and he complained that every now and then when the weather is cold, the starter motor isn't engaging.
Yeah, so I unfortunately, it's been warm the last few days, so I wasn't really able to test it, but for his peace of mind, we put a new starter on it anyway. So, and that is something in my experience that these starters tend to do as they start getting older and bad. And the one I took off was definitely the original one. They act up in the cold before they act up when it's hot out.
And this car is pushing 100,000 miles.
106,000, yep.
So it has been used, it has been started enough times that it's just time for that 30-year-old component to start to wear out too.
I haven't brought back the core yet. Since it is original, I'm almost tempted to, I don't know.
See if he wants it and see if we should hold on to it.
Yeah, and I always want to ask the customer before I get rid of any parts if they want any of them. And that's why I haven't taken it back yet. There's a $10 core on it. But it's always nice when you've got those original parts, even if they're bad. It's nice to have the original ones, because if someone, let's say this car is 20 years older or something and someone to restore it for a Concours d'Elegance event or something, where are you going to find the original starter with all the right numbers and all the right everything on it?
It's crazy to think of, but hey, it's getting to that point where cars like this are becoming more and more collectible of this generation, and eventually you will see one of these late great Buicks front-wheel drive V6 specials at an event like that. At some point, someone will save one, and someone will want to keep all the original parts. Well, it's been a nice trip down memory lane. I remember these cars very well. I know some of my buddies' parents drove cars just like this, and they were everywhere. They were prolific, and they were a really important transitional feature in the recovery of the American auto industry. And this was one of the cars that I think won a lot of fans back compared to foreign makes and models. To show once again that American cars, that they could be affordable, they could be reliable, they could be comfortable, they could have good performance and good fuel economy, they could be stylish, and they could give you everything that comes as a pleasurable automobile.
Yeah, and not that I don't like this car, but I hope it stays gone for a lot longer this time.
And with that, we said a fond farewell to the 91 Buick Riviera. Indeed, that would be the last time we would ever see it. The owner would end up selling it a few months later and replace it with a used, late-model SUV crossover, just like everyone else. Yes, it was a tad disheartening to show that, once again, there are problems and pitfalls that inevitably go along with owning a classic car as a daily driver. Still, we're hopeful that the plucky little Buick made it into the hands of an owner that might want to use this rare and unique survivor for more than just transportation. And who knows, maybe someday the cars from our teenage years will return to our workshop, only this time to be admired and cherished at one of our summertime Cars and Coffee events. We certainly look forward to that day. If you enjoy automotive content like we do, consider subscribing to our channel, or check out our website to join our VIP-only high-speed chase club for early videos and other great perks.